Okay, we're Kuf Samachtet Hilchos Ribis. We're continuing with Seif Yud Gimel. Okay. A goy she'amar le Yisrael love ma'ot mi Yisrael beribit al mashkoni. So what's the case? There's a non-Jew and he's the borrower. And he goes to tell a Jew, we'll call him Jew number one, who is basically like an agent, matavech, shaliach, whatever you want to call him, the go-between. And he says, go, I want you to get money to borrow from the second Jew. The second Jew is the malveh, and right, it's obviously the issue is we're talking about ribis over here. So really, the goy is going to be borrowing from the Jew, the second Yisrael, the malveh, the ribis. And he does it, he gives him a mashkon. The goy gives the mashkon through the shaliach to go to the second Jew, and that's how that works. Mutter lemalve likach haribit miyad Yisrael hashaliach. So now this agent, the shaliach, the first Jew, the middleman, he's allowed to go transfer the mashkon, take the money, and then later the Jew is going to be handling again the mashkon and all the money with ribis. So there's going to be a transaction or a handing over the money from Jew to Jew with ribis. But it's because of the loan between the Jew and the non-Jew. But there's the shaliach is a Jew. So is that okay? So it says over here, mutter, you're allowed to. But there's a caveat. It could be mutter, it could be asr. When is it mutter? So it's mutter for the Ramaha Velika Chabit Miyad Yisrael HaShaliach V'hu Sheyomar HaMalveh LeShaliach Atat Yeshluchi Lehavi Li HaMashkon Miyad HaGoy Be'achrayuti V'lehalich Lo HaMa'ot Al Achrayuti. So the only way it's mutter is if the malveh, right, the second Jew, the malveh, the lender, the Jewish lender, he tells the shaliach, this middleman, this middle Jewish man, that everything we're doing, there's all these transactions, both the mashkon and the money, it's in the responsibility of the Jew. If anything happens to it, the Jew is responsible, not the shaliach. The main issue over here is a Jew to a Jew, obviously we know is ribis, that's the problem. And a goy to a non-Jew, a non-Jew to a Jew, that's when it's permitted. So the question is, this middleman, is he acting as a shaliach? Or first of all, is he acting on behalf of himself? That would be a problem. If he's acting on behalf of the Jew, that's when it's 100% mutter, because the shaliach is just an extension. He's a shaliach of the Jew, and therefore it's the whole transaction is going from Jew to non-Jew. So that's what the stipulation must be. And so therefore, if he's just a shaliach and a conduit of an extension of the malveh, the Jewish malveh, then there's no problem. But that means the responsibility has to be in the malveh, right? While the money is traveling from hands to hands, because otherwise, if the shaliach is responsible, then it's really looked upon as if the Jew was lending to the Jew, and the two Jews are lending to each other, and then the shaliach is just making a whole new lending with ribis to the goy. So the lending of the ribis to the goy is okay, but between the Jew and the Jew, that's a problem, right? It can't be that one Jew lends to another Jew, and then that second Jew lends to a goy, because that would be a problem when it's going from hand to hand of the Jew to the Jew. That would be a problem of ribis. It has to be where it's going straight from one Jew straight to another, to a goy. And so therefore, if the shliach is acting as a shliach, as an extension of the malveh, then it's okay.
Then if there's no mashka, what's the mashka do?
So we're going to have a case like that. We're going to have a case with they often want to have a mashkon, and we'll see what happens when there's no mashkon. The problem is, what could be the problem over here when it's not mutter is if the shaliach is his own person, or the shaliach is an extension of the goy. The shaliach can't be an extension of the goy. It can only be an extension of the Jew, because we hold their shlichus by a Jew, and we don't say their shlichus halachically by a non-Jew. So therefore, when the shaliach, the middle, is trying to become, if he would try to become a shaliach of the goy, we say it doesn't work, ein shlichus goy, and therefore it's looked upon as the Jew. It's a Jew to a Jew. So that's why the only way it works is if the middleman, the shaliach, is a shaliach of the Jewish malva and not of the non-Jew. Okay, hope that was clear. Fine, I think, let's keep moving. Right, we're saying, halachically we're saying there's no sheikhas for a guy. Okay, so let's go to the, I think, Rushi Omar, one second, I want to see if I see anything. Okay, now this is important, just to point out, the Shach points out, b'shem the Bach, again, it may be a machlokas Shulchan Aruch and the Shach, but the Shach writes, it's really from the Bach, lechatchila, you have to say, in other words, the mechanics, everybody agrees, what we explained until now. Question is, do you verbally need to tell him? So it kind of depends. We're going to see what. Basically, the Bach says, lechatchila, when you're making the original loan from the beginning, you should say it verbally, but it doesn't have to be verbally. As long as we know that you're acting upon as the shaliach for the Jewish malva, that's really what's okay. And that's because that's what you're doing. Okay. But anyways, that's certainly to be yotzei everybody. You should definitely verbalize it, so there's no question whatsoever. Okay. Let's go to the Haggah. V'im natan hagoya mashkon Yisrael kodem shehilva Yisrael hasheni. If the goy is giving the mashkon to the shaliach, and it goes to the malva before there was the loan, afilu haya achrayut hamashkon ala shaliach muter rak she'achrayut hamaot ala malva. So this is a little bit of a technicality or a fine detail. I don't know, maybe technicality might not be the right word, but it's a fine detail that the Ramah points out. Certainly when it comes to the money, for this to work, the achrayus of the money, the responsibility has to be not in the shaliach, otherwise he's looked upon as an independent borrower, Jew to Jew. But he has to be a complete shaliach to the malva, and therefore the malva has to have responsibility. If anything happens to the money, the malva is really the one who's going to lose the money. Okay, the shaliach is not responsible to pay him back if someone steals it from him. Something. I'm not talking about negligence, but basically, if someone gets robbed, who's responsible for it? So that's the okay. But regarding the mashkon itself, if the mashkon is done ahead of time, first, then it's okay if he's responsible for the mashkon. This might be a machlokas Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah. It seems to be, but okay. It's a discussion. It's a discussion. When you say before the loan even starts, the mashkon is not really relevant. Who's responsible for it or not? There's no ribis, there's no loan yet. Until there's a money transaction, the mashkon is, for all intents and purposes, for the purposes of ribis, it's completely irrelevant because there's no loan yet, there's no ribis yet, there's no issue yet. until there's a loan. And the fact that he gave over an object in advance to become a mashkon, right, it was a pikadon that turns into a mashkon, that's not really a problem. Okay, anyway. Fine. Let's go on. V'chein, where are we? Right. Happens to be the Erech Lechem Maharikash, who's a big Svardik posek. He also agrees with the Rama on this issue. Okay. V'chein bishat pidia. Now, the loan is over. It's time to return the money and return with the ribis and to the repayment, and then return the mashkon.
This is part of the statement still.
What do you mean? I'm not sure what you're saying. We had a break. We had a proper break. When you give the loan, tell him who has the achrayos. Okay, now there's a period, new paragraph. We come back a week later, a year later, whenever it's time to pay back the loan. And we say like this, when it comes time for the repayment, the malveh should also tell the shaliach again, Tehei shaluchi, you're going to begin, you're my shaliach. The havili ma'otai, min hagoy, v'yu ba'achayuti miyad kishiyatsu miyad hagoy, v'chein tiyeh shaluchi lachzir lo ha'mashkon. When you pick up the payment from the goy with the ribis, you're automatically, that money, when it leaves the hands of the goy, it's as if it entered the hands of the malveh, because the shaliach is working for the malveh, and the shaliach is not responsible. So too, when you return the mashkon, the shaliach is never really responsible. Now, the Shulchan Aruch just points out, in the real world, it's a little bit dangerous to tell the shaliach you have no responsibility. So bi'im eno ma'amino, if you can't really trust that the shaliach is going to be super careful, and you want him to feel some responsibility so that he's extra careful, so then Yomar kach belibo, then the malveh must, in his own heart, know that he's acting as a shaliach for the malveh, but the shaliach is not really responsible. It's not, he's working for the malveh. You don't have to tell him who's responsible. Or you can tell him like this. Really, you're not responsible because, right, I want this to be mutter, and I can take ribis. But I want you to know you are taking responsibility. You're not responsible, but Lamaisa, you have to pay me unless you get witnesses that you were innocent and you weren't negligent or whatever. V'im asakein, and if you did so, ubishat pedia omer shali. No, so everything until now is okay. Okay, now let's get a new twist onto the case. V'im asakein, ubishat pedia omer shaliach lo amarti lecha emes tchila, ela shalihu. Now, what happens when it comes time to repayment? This is basically a little bit of a new case. Everything until now is the same, except what happens when it comes time to repayment? The non-Jew, the shaliach, the middleman, doesn't want to pay ribis. He's trying to get out of paying ribis, whether it's for his own personal benefit, for the goy's benefit, whatever the case is.
Or he made up the whole thing about the goy.
Or he made up the whole thing, exactly. It could be that, he made up the whole thing. We're going to see, it doesn't, you may not really know the actual metzias, but basically, it could be the middleman is really the one who borrowed the money. And the Jew knew that the other Jew wouldn't lend him the money if he didn't get ribis. So he had to make up this fictitious goy to allow him to give him a loan so that he can pay with ribis. Otherwise, he would never lend out the money. He's going to lend it to a different goy, to a goy. He's not going to lend it to a Jew without ribis. So this was the only way he can get this loan that he needed. So that's what could be, or whatever it is. He's just trying to get out of ribis, whatever the case might be. True or false? That's not exactly relevant. The case is, though, he's telling you, I lied.
He wants to keep the ribbis of the goy.
Right, or maybe he wants to steal the ribbis for himself. The goy paid the ribbis. Exactly. It could be the goy paid the ribbis, and he doesn't want to pay the ribbis to the Jew. He wants to keep it for himself. Right? He wants to get paid for his work. He's the middleman. He wants to get that's how he wants to get paid. This whole loan was just with me. So then, Yomar Malva Enima Mincha. The Malva can say, well, you told me already that it was that there was a non-Jew involved. So you already told me what's going on. So now that you're trying to undo it, I don't believe you. I believe what you said the first time. Okay, and we know that in Adam Ne'aman alatzmo yeter mimeya edim. So we're going to see that a person. Okay, now, so he's going to make so there's a mashkan over here. So he keeps the mashkan. In other words, he can keep the mashkan until the guy pays ribbis. He's not obligated to pay him back. What? Well, he doesn't believe him. He believes the mashkan counts as an onion. Right. So but the malva doesn't have to believe him. Okay. Again, what really happened? Nobody really knows over here. But it's a dialogue between two people, and this is what's going on. So the lacha is, so he says, what's it called? I believe the first things you said. Now, the case is when you gave him the loan, and at the same time there was a mashkan. So let's. Otherwise, well, let's keep reading. Now, but he says like this: you're not. So you don't want to pay me ribbis, right? Well, I don't. So he says like this: so he says like this: okay, fine. I'm not going to give you back. You're not paying me, so that's fine. Don't pay me. I'm going to go get the. So this is how we're going to do it. Okay, you're telling me you're not really a shliach, so fine. Tell the goy to come to me. I'm going to deal with the goy. He's going to pay me the money with the ribbis, and I'm going to give him back the mashkan. Otherwise, I'm not giving you the mashkan. And he says like this: even if the shaliach makes a shvua, right? He doesn't need to. The malva also doesn't need to make a shvua. He just tells him. But here, the law that the shaliach tells him, "I'm going to make a shvua." Eino neman. We don't believe him. A shvua doesn't even help him. Even if he brings witnesses that have belonged, that there is no goy over here. Because he told him that it's not his. When he took the loan, he said, I'm a shaliach for the goy, and it's not mine. And if the love makes the shvua, it doesn't help. Now, if it turns out that the malva, the Jewish malva, realizes that it really is it really belongs to the. There is no goy over here. He's telling the truth. So he can tell him, I'm not giving you back the mashlam. But at the end of the day, if you know that the shaliach is telling the truth and there's no goy, you're able to find out the malva is not allowed to take ribbis. It's true, mitzad mamanas magiyala, but there's an isser daraisa or an isser, depending what it is. There's an isser of ribbis. So mitzad HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the malva is not allowed to take the ribbis if he knows that the guy's telling the truth. Okay.
But the shot says they can't stop him from taking the ribbis.
Right. You can't stop him from taking the ribbis because midin mamanas magiyala. But he himself is not allowed to take ribbis, exactly. Which is an isser over here. And a person who does this, he goes around taking loans, b'shem a guy that doesn't exist, and then when it's time to pay back the repayment with interest, he gets out of it, so he's called a rasha. Now this is when you do the malva at the same time with the mashkon that happens at the same time. ואחר כך אמר הלוקח, לא הבאתי לגויים, אבל לקחתי לצורך עצמי, הלוקח נאמן, שלצורך עצמו לחם. Now, if there's no mashkon involved, then there's a certain amount of, there's a certain amount that we do believe him. It's like a shema and a bari. There's no kinyan of a mashkon. So then the shaliach or the lokeach or the lova, it's all the same person. So then we do have to believe him on some level at this point, and you can't force him to pay the ribis. Now you could take the ribis if you know that there is a goy. Like when he took the loan, he said, "This is the name of the goy that I'm doing it with." Then he doesn't get out of it. You don't choshesh he's lying. He choshesh he's lying, and he gets out of it if he says, "There's a goy. I'm really just his shaliach." But the entire dealing is 100% Jew to Jew. Unless he gave the goy's name, or the goy was standing there at the time. The Shach talks about it earlier in Seif Kata and Lamed. Okay. Anyway, but if you do this, right, you borrow, telling the guy you're going to pay him ribis, and then you find a way to get out of it, so the guy can threaten you, and perhaps it can lead to cherem. And if one does so, Shulchan Aruch writes, it's called a rasha. So it depends. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it, but it's still discussion in the Achronim when he could be called a rasha and not. Okay. Either we call him not really part of Yisrael, or if you're able to call him a rasha, technical rasha or not. Okay, side topic. Fine, let's go on to Yudalid. Oh boy, it's late. That took a while. Yudalid. Let's see if we can do this real quick. Yisrael shalom mechaber letzarech hagoy. Now, the middleman, this is basically a similar case. The middleman is basically the same case. The middleman is a Jew. And he's working between the goy and the Jew. Shaloga mechaver letzarech hagoy. So he's taking the money to give it to the non-Jew. And so the achrayas again is the malva. So that it's basically the same case. However, the shaliach lied a little bit when he gave information between the Jew and the non-Jew. He gave two different amounts for ribis. He gave one higher and one lower, and they wouldn't know about it. And the difference he would pocket on the way. Right? He wanted to make money, so he tells the goy, you have to pay, let's say 10%, and he tells the Jew, you're only getting 5%. That's what the agreement is. And so no one knows about it except this middleman. And the middleman is the one who pockets this 5%. That's basically the case. So he told him more. He tells him he says the agreement is on lower interest, right? We just said, let's say 10 versus 5%, whatever it is. The shaliach is able to keep the money. That delta, that 5%, he's able to keep for himself. Fine. Now, if he told the malva more, let's say the same or more, really, then, either way, the case is more, but really it's the same idea. And the non-Jew is becoming a tough guy. is becoming strong and says, leave me alone, I'm not paying the ribis, or I'm not paying the full amount, whatever it is, otherwise I'm going to beat you up. So then the shaliach doesn't pay from his pocket because he's not, or doesn't have to pay from his pocket because he's not responsible, right? But that was the whole premise is the shaliach is not responsible for the goy.
Just like you did.
Just like it's the same case as Yud Gimel. So therefore, all the responsibility was on the malveh. Otherwise, it would have been so that this way the shaliach is just working for the malveh. The shaliach doesn't work for the goy. Otherwise, it would be a problem, as we just explained. Haga v'yesh omrim Tzarech halo v'lifroa lo mikiso ele im hiskir lo shem hagoy techila as pater miloshalim lo mikiso. So that some say, no, the shaliach is actually going to be responsible unless he's singled out and named who the goy is at the time of the hava. So basically, it's just a little bit of a repeat of what we said before. It's just very important that the shaliach doesn't say, I'm going to be responsible to pay the ribit and the keren, because otherwise it becomes like the Jew to a Jew. That's one transaction. Stop. And then there's a separate transaction of the shaliach to the goy, because that would be a problem of handing over ribis from Jew to Jew. It has to be a smooth one transaction from a Jew to a non-Jew, and the shaliach is only an extension of the Jew. Right? Basically, what we said before. Ela techilat halva tzricha aliyot letzarech hagoy. I don't know. Ima shaliach bal yiftad hamashkon mimaltov mutar lekabel mimenu keren v'ribit. Now, if the shaliach comes to redeem the mashkon, he's allowed to. The mashkon, he's allowed to go buy it, just like any normal transaction. He's just buying the mashkon back, even though the mashkon got more expensive because of the ribit. It's just a purchase. It's not a problem. But it has to be that he's willing to sell him the mashkon, because then it's a normal sale. It's not forced. If it's forcing, then it could be. It shows that you're acting as independent. But if the non-Jew, if the Jew wants to sell the mashkon, then it's okay. But if he's but if it's could be inappropriate. If he does this intentionally, the whole plan was he's going to do it like this, then that's a problem. And if the malveh is tired of the loan and he wants he's forcing him to buy back the mashkon, then he's not allowed to. He can't force the shaliach. The loan and the mashkon is a deal between the malveh and the goy. He can't, again, like we just said, the shaliach who's working for the malveh, he can't force the shaliach. The malveh can't force the shaliach to pay him back. Okay. Stop.